3, 2, 1, action.
Thank you guys for supporting us on Patreon, especially the CPR guys. We never shout you guys out, but thank you guys for being on the CPR tier, and also for you guys who have joined the merch tier, the coffee mug tier, and also the hoodie tier.
Yep, and also if you are a defibrillator, you get all of that stuff. So go check that out.
I want one of those.
I actually really like that. I have a shirt, but I want a hoodie.
I like how the drawstrings are thick.
Me too.
Yeah.
Thick drawstrings are the best.
And it's really soft too.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I need to be a defibrillator.
It's only $100 a month, Bart.
Okay. It's like a membership.
Do you guys know about the second lockdown? That it's actually unconstitutional.
Is it?
We don't have to listen to it, is the thing.
So like, let's say we're out on the streets at like 11 p.m. The cops can't arrest us?
Nope.
Wait, can you explain? Can you explain martial law again? Like, what is that again?
Martial law is when the military takes over the government, and the laws that usually apply to free citizens don't count because we are in a state of emergency. So martial law is like basically like how a lot of dictators make an excuse to say, we are going to take over the country for your safety, and then they use the military.
The government's
to do
not
it.
to be trusted, kind of thing.
Yeah, and it usually is like a military general or somebody that kicks off the president or whoever's leading.
Government too? I don't know. It's confusing.
Remember in the beginning of the pandemic when Ted Cruz said martial law? He tweeted martial law, but he spelled it like Marshall Mathers, and then everyone was doing Eminem.
Marshall, like the clothing store, Marshall.
Yeah, like the fucking speaker systems.
That's so funny.
Damn.
That is pretty hilarious. It's funny too because we have autocorrect. I mean, are they speaking into Twitter?
Well, I mean, maybe he has a friend named Marshall, so it autocorrected too.
Oh my God.
It is kind of scary though, because like, you know, a lot of the countries that are doing really well, they usually have like a similar mindset, not too many differences, so it's easy for their leader to come out and go, this is what we're gonna do. Everyone's, oh, okay, cool. We all kind of think the same. In America, we all have completely opposing thoughts, different beliefs, and we're
State to state too.
Yeah, we're not very like empathetic towards each other, and then so when one person comes out, regardless of who it is, says something, there's always gonna be one side that says, fuck you!
So it's like a tug of war, and then we never actually progress as a country because we just stay in the same spot.
Yeah, so I feel like to really enforce the law, then it almost feels like you need to have it. Like if we really want everyone to stay the fuck in for like 2 weeks, you almost feel like you need someone outside every house to go the fuck back inside.
Or all the news outlets on both sides have to say the same thing because otherwise, you're rewarded and praised for denouncing the other side. Yeah.
And you don't really come to a compromise or a solution that way.
Do you guys know what other countries are like having a bad issue with coronavirus like we are? Because we are.
Brazil is up there.
We're
and
pretty-
India's number 2 and Brazil's number 3.
What's number
But that's
one?
because of population.
US.
We're
number one, baby. Let's go.
Gold medal, Corona gold medal.
I heard though it's because we're actually reporting numbers and recording them correctly. While other countries are just like,
Yeah, that's
Like China should probably be number 1, right? Like because it started there.
But they're so shady.
They're on a new virus now, probably. They're on some new shit.
I take it back though because they were actually super fucking strict with not people.
They were like killing people, like locking people. Yeah.
They brought the guillotine out for that.
I heard that
Not
right
true,
now
not true.
the costs are super expensive. There's only one plane going into China, and then you have to quarantine like crazy. But once you're in, they said that it's like not even existing because of how hard.
bubble.
They hit it at first.
Yeah, and then they kind of got rid of it, and then the way that they're letting people in, there's a mandatory 2-week quarantine.
Everything's getting sanitized like crazy.
Yeah, and then they release you, like they put you in a bubble, and then they
That
release
sounds
you.
nice. So it's like a mandatory, like uncomfortable period of say 2 weeks, and then you get to live your life as normal.
Like-
Whereas we don't want to go in America. It doesn't seem like the sentiment is we're able to do that. We're
Well,
just like we want our life as it is,
We're
and
not
now
all on the
never,
same page.
never change. No
Yeah,
change.
because it's that like the part about like, well, it's unconstitutional. You can't tell me what to do, so I'm gonna do whatever the fuck I want. So coronavirus is still gonna
If
get.
everyone in the whole country just quarantined the same 2 weeks, then we'd be fine.
No one's sticking to that.
Yeah, everything's so politicized here, where like in another country where they go, okay, this 2 weeks is for medical reasons, then they believe it. But over here, it's like, oh, So those 2 weeks, it's starting to infringe on my freedoms, which leads to this thing.
Yeah.
So we have everything's a slippery slope here on both
Yeah,
sides.
it is.
So because it's so politicized, so you can never, no one takes everything for like surface value. It's like, what are you really trying to say?
Well, it's because like in the future, if this is, it sets the precedent. It's the precedent, so that in future cases they can point to this and be like, well, we were able to break it then, so we can break it again. We could break the Constitution again.
And
My
then
mom-
to
That's
have
where it's slippery slope.
have a different intention with it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think it's very American to scrutinize and distrust your government, like heavily. So I think we're very paranoid about a tyrannical government ever since the inception of the country. Very different from like, I don't know, like England. Like they never threw out their king. Like they just always used
That's what we
to.
were getting away from when like the colonists came over here.
So I think we always have an issue with authority, and it's just very American to kind of be rebellious, which makes me think, how the hell did we keep it together?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Think of how we beat England when they came back to get the country back.
Hidden trees and shit.
Yeah, guerrilla warfare. It wasn't an organized army like them. It was like, okay, everybody had on trees.
cheated.
Yeah.
They're like, come out and fight like a man. And we're like, no, we're in the trees, bitch.
They learned from the Native Americans. They learned from Native Americans,
I'm a
right?
bird, motherfucker.
Native American style.
Or the first American. What did he call?
First American peoples.
Yeah, First Nation or what?
Wait, Native Americans is not the right appropriate
I don't
term
know
no more?
anymore. Yeah, but I remember like there were people correct.
First Nations.
I saw people correcting Native American to now say First Peoples or First American peoples.
What do you think the first American peoples think about that? Do you think they're just like, all right, dude?
American Indian, First American. I don't know, because I heard that even within their group, like there's different thoughts. They don't think the same or want to be called the same thing. It's just, I don't know how to. It's like Latino, Latina. No, I'm
Latinx.
Latinx.
Or
I'm
like
Hispanic.
African American or black. Like it's just like which one do we pick and just stick to one?
Yeah. Well, I mean, because people, I mean, your thoughts aren't defined by your skin color like everyone wants to assume. So, like, people have diversity in thought within
Yeah, because when people be trying to like be a leader of Asian America, and they'll be like, as an Asian American, this I believe, and I'm like, shut the fuck up, you don't represent me.
Yeah, fuck you. That's what we said.
Shut up, bitch.
Yeah, that's right.
Come down from here so I can kick your ass.
Anytime someone Asian talks, we're like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, that's not what I think.
Honestly, most Asians that go out and speak though, I would want to beat their ass.
Yeah.
Well, Andrew Yang was like the first one. I'm like, hey, I kind of like this dude. This guy's
Yeah, I
good.
like Andrew Yang. What were you saying that they said that, or was it you that said that Asians aren't considered a minority anymore?
Yeah, you were saying that.
Yeah, you were saying that.
So yeah, Washington State School District just recently changed the category of Asian alongside Caucasian / or Asian, and then people of color is a second category for the school system. So then that's their way for, like affirmative action and whatever, right?
Yeah.
So like now we're not considered people of color.
That's bullshit.
They should actually make Caucasians join the Asian category, because it sounds like Caucasian is just the category of Asian. They're Caucasian.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, they should join us on the Asian.
They're like Asians, but they're kind of cocky.
Yeah, exactly.
Can they do that though?
That makes no
It
sense.
makes me not want to go to Washington State.
Well, I mean, like, I don't know. It's weird. Yeah.
I mean, people of color is historically oppressed, and like Asians definitely are in that category. They were thrown at the railroad systems to, a lot of
Internment camps,
all of that.
And people don't leave their country because it was too good.
Yeah.
They usually leave because it kind of was a shitty situation. They came here and they came here.
Yeah.
Immigrate, great, built from nothing.
Who's next then? Who's next? Who's gonna be the
I
next
think
race?
that East Asians, Arab, like Middle Eastern, they're all gonna be a part of this category of white.
Why?
Because there's a few
the money?
factors. Like, okay, so if I look back in history, right,
Because of social class?
it's gonna be based off of privilege and social class.
More Asians that are in this.
high income, all that stuff. Education, high income, all that is probably going to be the determining factor rather than skin color in the future. So going back into history, right? So you know what a WASP is? White
Anglo-Saxon Protestant.
Up until 1940, that is what is America's definition of white. even till this day, I think if we think about it, that's quote unquote pure white, right? Like that's why
You're Jewish, you're not white.
You're not, yeah. And that's why they say JFK was the first minority president.
That's really funny to think about.
Because he's an Irish Catholic.
That's funny.
That's why, yeah.
He's just white.
So interesting.
But at the time, it was
At
like
the
a big deal,
time,
probably, right?
at
But
the
now you're
time,
like, yeah,
yeah.
right, get out of here.
Because Irish was always like, oh, you ain't really white, you're like a runt.
That's crazy.
So like Irish, Jewish, Italian, Polish, Slavs, Russians, those weren't traditionally considered white. But now in American society, 2020, they're white. Right? Like it takes one generation, and in my definition, I was like, how are you considered white? Any group in one generation where you don't question their Americanism, I think that's what's considered white. Like my buddy, he's half Dutch, half Jew, right? Both parents are from Europe. But it only takes one generation for him to speak English, born here. They look at him, they're like, you're one of us.
Yeah, but see, I don't think we've hit that yet because people
Not with
still
East
ask,
Asians.
all of us where they're from. Like they all, when they come up to you and ask, what country are you from? That's when I feel like I don't think that. I think
Yeah.
Asians should still be considered a minority.
I think so too,
Color.
but it's going to be the next wave, maybe within the next 50 years.
Yeah.
I do see it happening where I think, Arabs, they're white passing, right? Because there's a lot of Middle Eastern, people that look like they can be, like Turkish, like European.
Yeah. Some Lebanese.
Yeah. Like
Armenians.
they're closer to like Eastern Europeans.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they already look the part.
Greek.
Yeah, so if they live in a white neighborhood and they're born here and then they make a certain amount of income, they're gonna be considered that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like it's a strange category. So it's like, to me, it seems like there's a war on race. Let's call it that. Like there's just like this ideology of like fractionating the different races, right, to be against each other. Like you're not part of my group and I'm not part of your group, kind of thing. But then now the whole move of putting Asians with the white people, it seems like now they're just making a move towards haves and have-nots.
They're trying to take
But then
away
there's black people that are part of the haves. There's white people that are part of the have-nots too.
Yeah.
So it depends on where your mental space is at the moment when you confront these issues. You might be playing the race thing, or you might be playing the whole oppression, like race.
Color is like the stupidest way of categorizing people.
Color and category?
Yeah, like color and category, I think it's the stupidest way of like even on the news when they're like, okay, the black vote is gonna go to X, Y, and Z. I'm like, how do you fucking know?
It makes it seem like all people of one race think the exact same
Everyone
way.
has different thoughts, you don't know.
Except for white people. White people get to think all different ways. But if you're black, you have to think this way. And if you're Mexican, you have to think this way.
Right. You know Chasey Handler, 50 Cent's ex?
Yeah, Chelsea Handler.
Chelsea, yeah.
They dated?
Yeah, dude. And you know what's crazy?
I like that that's how you label her. Instead of like, do you know the comedian? Like she has her own show.
She's the only female talk show host for a long time.
There's in context, there's a reason why 50 Cent's ex is important here is because she was on Jimmy Fallon, and then she was telling Jimmy Fallon, it's like, I had to remind him that he has to vote for Biden because he's black.
But she's a comedian.
No, but
She wasn't trying to make a joke.
no, the delivery was like,
I heard about
I was like,
Yeah.
wait, what? Like, that makes absolutely no sense.
She was serious than that.
Yeah. She was like, I had to remind him, like, you have to vote for Biden because you're black, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
if you're a white.
Well, Biden said that too. He said, if you ain't voting for me,
she's like, what are you doing
you ain't
voting
black.
for Trump?
You ain't black. That's what he said.
he's
and I was like,
trying to
wait,
be cool.
what?
The black people.
So that means that if you don't vote left and you're a minority, then you're somehow not acting accordingly to what your race is supposed to vote. And I'm like, what? That's so crazy.
Yeah.
I think they're trying to take away, like you were saying, I think they're trying to take away the model minority argument. So a lot of people tend to point to, well, look at Asians. Like, how come statistically Asians are actually making more income now at 2020? They're making more income than white people
We're
statistically.
so sick.
So then people
Tell 'em, Bart.
Like,
She's hard working.
Like literally from Wuhan, like we got sick.
minority groups against each other. Like, why can't you be more like these minorities?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's true. And I feel like that's a very scary move too, because then, like I was saying earlier off camera, I was like, that puts Asians in a weird position of not really being protected by
Yeah.
whatever laws are laws against hate crime. if Asians aren't part of the minority, then is there no racial hate crime against Asians now?
There's
And then
so much racism against Asians.
But then
still.
white people will never technically claim Asians as being white if that's how they're categorized. So it's like it's a weird.
Asian people will never be white
I
people.
really think they're just trying to do that to take away the argument of like, why can't you be more like minorities comparing each other?
But then this is the school doing this, right? So then it's probably because of the fact that you know how they have to limit or they allow like the affirmative action, like having a certain amount of students enter from different minority groups, but because Asians
take all of the
I think that's exactly what it is.
Right.
They have to figure out a reason how they can cap how many applicants are coming from Asians because it's drastically like way too competitive for all the other groups. Right. And that's not to say that Asians are smarter or better or whatever. They just dedicate since 2 years old. Their parents torture them into getting into a new university. If all other cultures did the same thing, they'll be just as competitive, but it's not the same. I guess
that's true.
like nobody beats the fuck out of their kids to get into Harvard the way Asians do. Maybe Africans, because I heard that it's very similar in their culture. Africans from Africa, you know, like they're actually a high percentage of minority group that goes into Ivy League schools. And so I think that they should look at why this reason happens rather than look at this group. They're just doing it.
Is it Indians too? Because India, like, they're very like, be a doctor or a lawyer.
I think in America they're considered a part of our group, like Asian.
Yeah.
Like when you go to Kumon, it's mostly, you know, probably Asians.
I was actually a tutor at Kumon.
Were you really?
Yeah.
Shit, I could never step foot in that place. I wasn't smart enough to go or to be a tutor there.